Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we're joined by Australian Jordan Holmes, played for Bournemouth, played in sort of Premier League games on the bench. Obviously played this season for Ebbsfleet and has been on loan in Scotland with other clubs as well. So Jordan, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, guys. Yeah, pretty bored at the moment, but as probably everyone is. But yeah, no. Other than that, I'm not too bad.
What have you been doing to cope with the boredom of lockdown?
Been it's been one of those. A lot of Xbox, a lot of Netflix. Trying to stay fit as I can. In terms of like going for runs, bike rides, that sort of thing. And then also it gives me a chance to talk to a lot of people back home and stay up a bit later at night and wake up a bit. You know, my body clock, I can adjust to the time zone in Australia to talk to a few more people.
What what have you been playing on Xbox?
So I'm FIFA or Call of Duty.
Obviously, as a goalkeeper, you've been like trying to kick the ball to the wall and then trying to jump to the side.
I had this thing. I was thinking, should I go outside and just nail the ball at the wall and try to do things? And I thought, do you know what? I'll give it a go. And I was trying to do it, and I really couldn't do it. I wasn't doing it as hard as I wanted to, and I was just getting frustrated with myself in the end. So I ended up binning that sort of thing. So I've focused more on the fitness and the body weight exercises and all that. So I don't know what sort of goalkeeper I'll come back as, but as a fitness point of view, I should be all right.
In terms of your football, when you started, did you start in Australia?
Yeah. When I was about five years of age, my mum and my grandfather decided they wanted me to play football, and but my dad wasn't as accepting to the situation of me wanting to play football. You know, being Australian, he grew up with rugby league and cricket, and that was his major passion. And I remember my grandparents saying to me and my mum, if I played rugby league, they would never come and watch me. They would never watch me play. They would refuse to. So I started off playing football as a striker from the age of 5, and I was quite handy, quite good, playing my mates and doing okay. Then I got to about 9, 10 years of age, and I started to have an interest in baseball. That was my big passion at the time, probably at the time more than football. And I've become quite good at that, representing, you know, as you guys are calling it, a county level, a state level, and then, you know, going over to America and playing baseball when I was 13 and 14. And it became a crossroad in my time. There was one season I was just about to turn 15, and a local club team I was playing for. So, how do I put it? A Sunday league team in England. I was playing for that level at football still. And our goalkeeper said he didn't want to play anymore in goal. And I was like, and my dad was like, do you want to give it a go? And I said, well, how hard could it be? I play baseball. It's all about catching a ball, moving behind the ball, do that sort of stuff. So I gave it a go. Just at 15, the season started, and a year into that, a lot of people I got into the next level of representative football, jumped about 6 leagues, 7 leagues in Australia. And then 6 months after that, got picked up by the Institute of Sport in New South Wales. And then got into more representative teams, and then got asked to join the Australian Institute of Sport as a goalkeeper. And it's all a bit crazy. I was still doing it as banter and like, oh yeah, whatever, football, I'll just play. Like, never thought it'd be a career. And then 2 and a bit years to the day, I got asked by a football manager in Australia if I wanted to tour the UK and go join a team and play against all these academies. And I said to mum and dad, I said, you know what, I'd love to go and just see Premier League games, see everything and see what it's about. I wasn't really caring about the football side of things. I was more interested in the lifestyle of, you know, going and seeing what England was all about. We're over here for 3-4 weeks, played against loads of academies, you know, Stoke, Bournemouth, Portsmouth, a lot of other clubs. And I think out of all the 13 clubs we played, I had offers from about 14, 15, 16 clubs that were interested in signing me, which was a bit surreal for me and my family, because we were like, I never thought anything would happen. And then got home in the March, and then by May I got a phone call by Eddie Howe to meet myself personally, and this was now in League One, and he said, we're offering Jordan a 2-year scholarship if he would like to take it. It's down to him. We obviously know it's a big move for him, and he'd have to move over in June. And I said, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And from that point on, and that was the thing that sealed the deal with Bournemouth. I had a lot of clubs higher up in the divisions as Premier League and Championship interested, but him personally calling me and doing that sort of thing swayed my decision. And I thought, oh, good to start League One, get an opportunity at a lower club. And then 4 years into the club, we found ourselves in the Championship and then the Premier League, and it just escalated from there.
Was it tough moving from Australia to Bournemouth at such a young age?
I think, yeah, I don't think many kids, at the time, you don't really think about those sort of things, and you just go, yeah, I'm going to England. Who cares? I'm away from home. I'll live my own life. I'll live the best life and all that. And I think you quickly realise the glitz and glamour of football. Driving the nice cars, earning loads of money, whatever you want to look at it. I think when I seen my first paycheck of, I was on £51 a week or whatever in the youth team, so quite small. And I thought I was balling. I thought, £200 at the end of the month. I thought I'm the man. And yeah, it was tough. Not when you join in June to a family that you have to live with over here, and then people you don't know, you've never met, and you've got to adapt. You are the different one, because Bournemouth being quite a remote area to England in terms of it's not like London or Manchester. There's not really, the diversity is not as much as proper an English city. You were the different one, and it was a struggle at the time. And as you can imagine, an outsider joining a youth team where all these kids are grown up, 10, 11, 12 in an academy, and then you just come in and take one of their mates a spot. It was tough to be accepted. And yeah, it wasn't the easiest time in the youth team for me personally, playing wise, and, dealing with homesickness and all that. And then mentally not knowing you can only go home once a year was the biggest thing. But, I persevered, and my passion to succeed grew stronger, and that's what made me continue with all the problems I had in the youth team with managers in the youth team. But I persevered and pushed on, and yeah, am where I am today.
And obviously now, if we look at it, Bournemouth's goalkeeper is actually Aaron Ramsdale, and I know Bournemouth give a lot of opportunities to their youth players. Did you really feel like that was something you wanted to be part of?
Yeah, look, when I was in the youth team, and I was part of it, and at 17, 16, I was training with the first team. I was still part of it, and it was an interesting time because I got told when I was in the youth team I wasn't physically strong enough or big enough to play at a youth team level, which was a bit of a shock, because then the following week Eddie Howe would ring and say, you're playing for the 23s on Tuesday. So I wasn't good enough to play for the youth team. The managers didn't feel I wasn't good enough there. And I continued to persevere with it. And after 4 to 6 months into my contract, I got offered a 2-year professional deal from Bournemouth. And then a year into that, I got another 2-year deal. And I thought, this is this was so good. How good's this? Can get used to this. And then reality set in a bit, because I had such a rapid rise from 14 to 17 of going so quickly. Say if you jump from being at 10% to say 85%, the percentages get so hard to get and work on and move up. And the higher the league, as you guys can imagine, you go, they broaden their spectrum on who they can sign. It's not just they're looking at English players or that, they broaden to the world, and then they offer money, and it got like that. But look, everyone at Bournemouth I had, and especially Eddie Howe, I can't thank enough for how they treated me. And I was there for just under 6 years, 5.5 years, and it was a great experience in my football career, and it's made me sort of the player I am today.
Obviously, you had some opportunities to be a part of the sort of be on the bench of Premier League games. What was that like?
That that was surreal. You know, I think I got my first taste of that when I was on loan at Weymouth. I was 17. Yeah, I was on loan at Weymouth in the Southern Prem, so about 2 leagues below the conference, and I was just playing that game, and then I got a phone call off the goalkeeping coach after the game saying, we've ended your loan. I was after 2 games. We've ended your loan, and you're going to come back and get yourself prepared. You're going to be on the bench against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. And I went, right, okay, I've just played at Hemel Hempstead in front of 30 people or whatever it was. Now I'm going to go to Stamford Bridge. And it was surreal. And then as it worked out, the other goalkeeper passed a late visitors test and he was on the bench and I was third choice. But to have that opportunity for the next 6 months of travelling with the team and being a part of the first team and going to all these nice stadiums was great. But it was funny how everything worked out, because at that game at Stamford Bridge against Chelsea, in the warm-up, I'm still thinking I could be on the bench here, whatever. And we're doing the warm-up and I went down for a save to my right-hand side and I've got up and I've gone, my ankle's really bad here. I've thought, this is not good. I knew as soon as I did it, I thought, this is in trouble. And I didn't want to say anything to the physios at the time because I thought I'm still a chance here of getting on the bench. So I persevered and I took my boot off and my ankle's swollen up quite horrifically. And then a week later, I had the scans on it and I ruptured every ligament in my ankle and needed to have surgery, and I broke the end of my tibia and fibula. So I was out for 4.5 months after that. So then it turns to a different thing where your career was going so promising, and then now you're out for that long. And you think, oh, I'm not going to be anywhere near the gaffer's plans or whatever. I'm not going to be, in contention anymore. And then after that 4 and a bit months, 3 weeks after coming back at training, he goes, just to reward you with all your hard work and how you've been, you're on the bench this weekend against Man United. I went, okay, perfect. And yeah, as that, I took it in my stride. Being a Man United fan, it was surreal sitting on the bench and being so close and personal with all the players. It was great.
And in terms of, you spoke about the Weymouth loan. You went out on, I think it was 3 loans.
Yeah.
What was the best one for you?
They were all so different in terms of Weymouth was good because I went there just for purely to get experience of men's football. And Mark Molesley was the current manager. He was a player at the time for Weymouth, but also had a lot to do with Bournemouth. And he brought me in there, and I only had 2 games there, as I said. But it was an eye-opener to see how that level of football was played compared to 23s football, and youth team football is very different. But I found that rewarding, which then the next season went to Eastbourne on loan, which I thought was great. And I played 20-odd games, 25 games there, and same sort of thing, Conference South, very physical. And then for the next 2 years, I didn't go on loan because, the gaffer wanted me to stay around the team and train with the team and be third choice and travel and all this sort of thing. So I did that. And then it come to my loan at St Mirren. And when that come about, I thought, yeah, look, it's my last year of my contract. I need to get out. I want to try and get some game time if possible. So I come into St Mirren, and unfortunately they're in a position, they were 24 points off safety. So a lot worse than, say, Ebbsfleet were when we were at January. But I didn't get to play a game because the goalkeeper we signed as well at the time, he had probably one of the best seasons I've ever seen a goalkeeper have. And he was in player of the season. He was team of the season. He was second in the league to Craig Gordon. He had such a great year for us. And it was probably one of the most rewarding experiences just to be a part of, to come from a 24-point deficit. And then, if you did the table from January till May, we finished 3rd in the Scottish League behind Celtic and Rangers. And it was so rewarding to be a part of the great escape for the club. And yeah, it it was a good experience again in another country, very, very cold country, as I might add. And then it was, just as I said, a great experience to just succeed and keep them in the league.
Obviously, you've mentioned in the Bournemouth youth team that they said that you were too small, not physical enough. Did you struggle with obviously going on these loans and playing in the youth team games with sort of set pieces and stuff to go and punch and get rid of balls?
To be honest, that's never ever fazed me. I know a lot of people have said, "Oh, you know, your height, you're only 6 foot, you're not tall enough to deal with the presence of a physical team in terms of loading everyone on you and getting pressure on you." It's never bothered me. And you know, the games this season, I feel like I can come out for crosses. I'll deal with that sort of stuff, and I will. You know, I'm not scared of getting hit or whatever. It happens. And at the end of the day, each manager has their preference. They want a goalkeeper that's better with their feet and, you know, a smaller goalkeeper they can, you know, deal with, or they want a taller goalkeeper who feels more of a presence. And whichever manager has their preference to that is how it is. But I was so glad that, you know, Gary Hill took the chance on me. You know, as he said to me, you know, it is rare for a smaller goalkeeper straight out of a Premier League setup to go straight into a conference team. And as I remember rightly at the time when I joined, Ebbsfleet weren't going too great, and the team wasn't the smallest. I remember walking into that changing room, it was like Land of the Giants, a lot of big boys. And as Gary Hill just said to me, he goes, just come out for everything and deal with everything. And he being a, you know, quite a flamboyant character, Gary Hill, it was good that he showed his faith in me, and yeah, it seemed to have come well in the end for both myself and Ebbsfleet.
And obviously, when you signed for us, I've asked this question to everyone we've spoken to. What ambitions did they sort of have? Because obviously, we'd been in around the playoffs a few years before you came, and then when you come, you know, we're in a relegation fight. What did they sort of say to you then?
It was a weird one, because I said the same thing when I was joining. I said, what is the club's sort of plan going forward? If you can't be a promotion pushing club, and then okay, after the first 5 games, most teams sometimes don't start the best. But when we signed in and we all joined in, I think we all wanted to make the playoffs and all that. But I think our major issue at the club was there was too many people, players had too many. Because there were so many different players, everyone had a different view on how we should be playing. Some people wanted to go, you know, more direct. Some people want to pass the ball about. The manager had a different view to how we felt we should play, and there was always a conflicting problem. And as probably a fan, it must have been frustrating watching it, because it looked like at times none of us on the pitch knew what game plan we were under. And I think it was down to the freshness and newness of the squad. But no, every time we went out the pitch, we wanted to win, and we put everything, heart and soul, into it. And I think you're seeing that probably once we had more of a settled team, you can see how much the games meant to all of us, and wanting to win and to keep the club, you know, in the league. And I had no doubt the way we were going and the way we were performing, we were going to stay up and keep us in the league.
Yeah, so when you first signed, as you mentioned, there was so many sort of... I remember looking back at the squad of this season, I've seen players that I didn't even know were at the club, and we've gone through so many players. What was it like being a bit more settled at Bournemouth and having so much turnover at Fleet, obviously signing?
Yeah, it was strange, because when I was at Bournemouth, it was strange. You'd only see about 2 or 3 players each year chop and change, but it was sort of the same squad, and I thought that was a winning formula for what they had. But now coming to Ebbsfleet, obviously it's different. The wages, people demand different things. People are promised different things. I understand that. But I think when I was in the changing room and seeing, okay, if this didn't work one week, we're completely changing it and going for this game this week like this, and then this like that. And I think as the time, I was so new to the team, you didn't want to feel up and come up and say something and go, no, you got to be like this, you got to be like that. You let it run how it did. But individually, I believe we had one of the most talented teams in the league. Individually and individual players, it's a great squad. You look at the you look at the experience and you look at what all the players have achieved in their own careers, we had no excuse not to succeed. But it just shows, at the end of the day, you need all the players on the same wavelength to make a successful club.
And I felt like seeing a lot of the games this season, I felt like in the first half of games we were so good. We was attacking, we'd get a goal, but we wouldn't get that second goal. And then in the second half we sort of came out and we were very deep. We'd hang on for until about the 80th minute, and then we'd concede. Did you feel like that was always happening? And
I think from my personal level, every time and probably the back four thought was, we really need the strikers here to score 2 or 3, because how we feel when we got our first, it felt like the front towards the front end of the pitch were like, now it's your job to just keep a clean sheet. It was just okay. And we used to get, as you said, we'd have the first 15, 20 minutes, we'd have 10, 20 shots and batter the team. Doesn't matter who it is, first or last, we'd do so well. And then it seemed to be coming going, oh, well, this is going to be so easy that we're just going to cruise this game. And I'd hate to see the stat on how many of the games this season we'd led and then, thrown away. But it was just, I think, a mentality. You got so used to scoring the first goal, and then you mentally will go, when is their goal coming? Because we know it's coming. We're sitting so deep. And you can feel it, and it's the worst thing. You can feel it as a goalkeeper, and you're like, it's just a matter of time when this is going to happen, because we weren't as resilient as some other teams, and sometimes look, the luck didn't go our way, and one of I think the turning point of our season, I think massively, was Maidenhead away, only about 7 weeks ago, whatever it was. I think that was a massive turning point, even for me personally, getting back in the team. And then, we went 1-0 down, goalkeepers had to get subbed off. They were only just above us. And we all, in the changing room, and even the gaffer said to me when I come on, he went, look, this is our turning point. We have to make a difference here. And then literally for 5 minutes, we turned into Barcelona. We turned passing the ball around, and then we've ended up scoring 2 or 3 goals. And I thought, why couldn't we do this all year? Like, we've all just scrapped. And I think playing with no fear helped us a hell of a lot. And I think, we've got to thank the gaffer, Kevin and Tristan, that come in and, let the shackles off a bit and let us express ourselves in our own way. Then it pushed on to Hartlepool away, getting a big win there, and then Halifax, and not only just wins but clean sheets as well. I think that was a big thing for all of us and what we deserved.
Obviously, you've mentioned Kevin Watson. You've mentioned Gary Hill just obviously signing. What was the shift like when you went from Gary Hill to Kevin?
For me personally, or for the team?
Both, really.
So for me personally, I got on with both. It didn't bother me. I had utmost respect for Gary for signing me and taking faith in me, and also the gaffer, when he come in now, Kevin, he's come in and there was fresh ideas, and he was an assistant to Gary for only, I think, a week or two. And we saw when he come in, we were still free-flowing football, and we really enjoyed it. I knew a lot of players were, say, anti-Kevin for coming in. A lot of players were anti-Gary, and that was just how football is at the end of the day. You're not going to get on with every manager. But I respected both of what they've achieved in their careers, and, I think there was a freshness brought it. I think there was too many things that went wrong that weren't under Gary Hill's control, or higher above him, that caused the issues that he had to deal with. And I think, personal way of looking at it, I think if you let Gary just do the football things and didn't have to deal with all the stuff on the side, I'm not saying he would have kept his job. I'm not saying we would have been top 3. I'm saying he would have had a better chance of succeeding at this club than he probably had done.
And then obviously you spoke about that Maidenhead game, and it always seems when you went out with Australia that the goalkeeper that come in place of you, whether it was Parlour, whether it was Gregory, they always have a little spell where they were good and you'd struggle to get back in. Did that frustrate you?
I think it did frustrate me because when I did get called up for Australia, and then I was like, well, it's a chance for me to go qualify for the Olympics and be part of an Asian Cup tournament. I thought I've got to go, and I thought personally, myself, I did well enough to keep my space in the team, but they felt we needed a change, and they went with David. And look, he did well when he come in. Don't get me wrong, he did well, and I've got nothing against Gregors, Harry, whatever that played. I wanted the team to do well, and as I said to the gaffer numerous amounts of times, I will be ready when needed. If you need me, I'll be in. As he said to me, a couple of weeks ago, I proved him right in saying when I was needed and when I come back in the team, I've proven my worth to the team. But yeah, it was hard sitting on the bench for a team towards the bottom of the league, going that I thought I played well enough to be in this team, but at the end of the day, that's just how football goes, and there's certain types of players that deal with it one way and go, yeah, this is the kick up, the arse I needed to come and succeed, or you go, the world's against me and I'm just going to down tools and quit. But that was never going to be what I was going to do. And it all worked out for me personally for the better.
Obviously, you've mentioned that tournament in January. What was that like being a part of the Ollie Roos? And obviously, you've made lots of caps for Australia. Unfortunately, the Olympics got postponed. And what was that like as well?
It was, it's surreal because you grow up with a lot of these boys through the junior levels, and you all have that one goal of being an Olympian. And to have that opportunity, we had to finish in the top 3 of the tournament to get there. And I knew it was a tough task because the age group before us left us at seed number 30 out of 32, which was not the greatest seed for a team like us. So we had a pretty hard group and going through it and all that sort of thing. And it's always tough because since Australia left Oceania and decided to join Asia in their football, we've always been sort of the black sheep of that sort of area, and no one wants Australia succeeding. So it was always tough going to these sort of countries, the climate change, and especially for me going from the middle of winter for England and then going to Thailand, which was about 38, 40 degrees. And it was very, very hard for us. But, it all made it all the work of the pre-tournaments, the qualifying campaign to get there, then to actually do it and, come third in the tournament was massive for all of us and our families. And, to get a chance, hopefully, to play at the Olympics next year will be, a surreal experience.
Will you still be eligible with your age?
Yeah, so they've the Olympic Committee have pushed back the age group from 23s to 24 now, just for this one special occasion, because of obviously it wouldn't be fair on all the lads, because our team's 80% would be not in the team next year because of and I think they realised a lot of teams would be like that. So I think that it was only fair and the right thing to let extend the day and extend the year group playing.
That's good, yeah.
In terms of your football, obviously, I believe you've been offered a new contract at Ebbsfleet. But obviously, as you're Australian, you've got a lot of, interest from Australian teams, and teams in the UK. Where do you see your future? Do you see it in the UK or do you see it in Australia?
Look, at the end of the day, I see my future wherever I can play football and regular football. I've enjoyed my time at Ebbsfleet a hell of a lot, and if I've had offers from other clubs in the UK, I've had offers from clubs in Australia. I'm all open to listening to everything, and if Ebbsfleet and myself can agree a deal to extend my contract next season, I will do that. But at the moment, I've had a lot of offers with a lot of different contingencies tied to them. But at the end of the day, first and foremost, as I'm a loyal player, I'm willing to listen to Ebbsfleet's offer that they've got to me, and hopefully what I'm trying to get out is that they'll show the loyalty towards me and their offer that I showed towards them in choosing to play for them and stick through this season.
I remember asking this question before, but obviously you've played in Australia and the UK. Would you say there's a big difference between playing in the different continents, or standard football?
I think, to be honest, with the conference and the A-League, it's such a difference in terms of the physicality that, some people thrive off and some people really don't want any part of. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. I love it. I love everything about English football in terms of how the fans get behind it. There's a following. In Australia, it's a bit different. Like, for example, if Hartlepool and Ebbsfleet were playing against one another, if Aldershot were playing against Ebbsfleet, you wouldn't go to a game with an Aldershot fan and sit next to him and just enjoy the day. In Australia, that's just how they do it. It's Western Sydney against Sydney, supposedly a big derby, but they all sit with everyone. It's very different like that.
Rugby,
it's not that they don't live and die for the team. They don't any of that, but it's still a good atmosphere. You get some games that could have 40, 50,000. There's some games that have 6,000. It's just very different in terms of the atmosphere created. And that's what I like about England in terms of you go to the smaller grounds and they get packed out of 6,000. I'd prefer playing in front of that instead of playing in front of 20,000 in a 80,000 seat stadium.
Yeah.
After every game, most of the games, we've seen that you've handed out lots of, shirts, boots, gloves. How does that always happened? Why do you always do that?
I think personally why I always do it, I think of myself as a young fan and as if you're a player, and I always saw it when I was a young kid and I had a favourite player in the team or a person I look up to. I thought, how good would it be if they come over and, they actually give you the time of day or give you something to remember the game by. And I think I've always had that for myself. And at the end of the day, I know that will make someone's day having a pair of my gloves or a shirt, or as much as Mags and Pete get on my back about giving away my top and all that. It doesn't bother me. I'll do that for the fans, and because they pay their money to come and see us play, it's a small thing we can do in return to thank everyone for coming and just keep supporting.
That's something I've enjoyed. Obviously, like you yourself, I think maybe obviously we done poorly under Gary, but maybe since you've got results under Kev, even when Greggs was in, he was obviously really passionate, getting that sort of connection back between the fans and players, because we kind of lost that at the start of the year. When we were doing so poorly, you handing out stuff, it has really helped, and you're one of the most requested people to come on here, because you're probably one of the favourite, along with sort of Goz and Miles when you're here. You're one of the favourite players for most people at the moment.
Look, it was tough, because I think a lot of people would go, and you used to get abuse from you get abuse from fans, and you even sometimes I get from the away fans, to be fair, a hell of a lot. Hairstyles or whatever I do and how I do what I do. But I think it really hits home when you got to take yourself and put in the fan shoes going, why would I pay X amount of pounds a week to watch a team that I purely think aren't caring on the pitch? And I think that's what really got up my nose in terms of I didn't want to be part of that. So, and I hate losing. I hated being part of that. So the passion to win was always there for me, and and it felt a lot more special, sharing it with the fans behind the goal, because I knew it meant as much to them as it did to me. And I know I've only been at the club for a short while, but I could never, when just the support I got all season, as I said to my family earlier, it was always going to be tough for me coming in, and Gary did explain to me it was going to be tough going in because you had such a legend as a goalkeeper in Nathan Ashmore. It was always going to be tough.
Nathan was a big, obviously, he's a big legend, absolutely.
And that was always going to be tough for me coming in. And that was another thing for me. I was like, I didn't want to do the fans wrong, or I didn't want to play badly, and they'll think, well, why the hell is Nath out on loan when we've got this kid in? And I had the most respect for Nath when he was at the club, and he's had a great career. And that was another thing weighing on my mind, going, I want to do the fans proud. And show that, I'm just as good as Nathan and produce what I can as what he did for the club. And that's what I hope to do in the future.
In terms of you, and you said your family was in Australia. How difficult has it been being away from them, especially in lockdown? And how difficult has that been?
I think it's been so tough because usually, at the start of the year, you get the schedule for the season and then you can book flights to go, okay, last game's on the 27th, I'm booking on the 28th and I'm going home. This is how it's going to be. I'm buzzing for it. And same thing happened this year. I had flights booked on the 29th of April, ready to go home, and it had to all be changed. And it has been tough. You miss sharing, your birthdays with your family, and then Mother's Day in Australia with my family, and it's just like little things like that get to you. And also not being able to go outside and live a normal life is tough, but they understand. And I think you turn as you grow in age, you tend to deal with it a lot easier and take your mind off things by doing other stuff. So look, they've always been supportive of me, and I can't actually wait to go home and see them for a little bit whenever that may be.
Do you want to go through your best 11?
Yeah, best 11. Here we go. There might be a few names you might not know, and there's probably some names you do know. So my best 11, well, because I have to put myself in goal because I've not played with another goalkeeper. So I've gone for a 4-3-3. Left back, I'd have Tyrone Mings. He's probably an unbelievable athlete. One of the biggest left backs I've ever played with. And he's a winner, and everything he done, he was great with me, great guy. He has to have his spot in there. He was just, as I said, he proved when he went to Villa how good he is as a player, and I don't think he got his real chance at Bournemouth, but that's why he's straight in. Another, probably the most underrated centre half in the Premier League is Nathan Aki. I think personally he's unbelievable. If Harry Maguire's £80 million worth, I think Nathan can easily challenge that. He's good on the ball. He can win a header. He scores goals. He was a really good buy for Bournemouth at the time. So he's another one. Another one you probably won't know is an Australian centre half. His name's Harry Suter. His brother is John Suter from Scotland.
I've heard of John. Yeah.
And his younger brother's Harry, and Harry decided to play for Australia instead of Scotland, which was a bit of an interesting one because he's come into the Australian team with a thick Scottish accent, and everyone's like, "Oh, this is a bit weird." But yeah, he's at Stoke. He's on loan at Fleetwood. As I said, he's 6'7". He scores a lot of goals, as you can imagine. And for Australia, I think he's played 3 games and got 4 goals. So he's done really well for the senior team. And I think playing against the smaller Asian countries, I don't think they've seen anyone that big ever come up against him. So no, he's really good. He was a really easy pick for there. And my right back, someone I play with at St Mirren, would be Paul McGinn, the brother of John. Another, consistent player. Always put 100% in. Was a winner, and he was pivotal to keeping the club up and the goals he scored and how he played. And he ended up getting his move to Hibs in the off season, so he's done really well with his career. So an all right around great guy. The midfielders, quite a no-brainer for me in terms of one of the best players I've ever played with, Jack Wilshere. An unbelievable talent, on and off the ball. He's, I think a lot of people give him a bad rap in terms of, how you see him, how the papers portray him and how everyone portrays him. But as a guy, he's a great guy, great with the younger guys, everyone at the club when I was there. And whenever he played with the 23s or in friendlies, he was always, so helping towards myself and the other younger players. So he comes in. Another guy that joined when I was quite later was Lewis Cook, a great centre midfielder. Got his England cap. He's won a World Cup. It doesn't get much bigger than that for a player winning a World Cup and captaining your country. A great guy, workhorse, brings a lot of flair to the game, even though you might look at him and go, he's a Northern English centre midfielder. He'd just be a guy that does all that, but he's got the flair, he's got everything, and yeah, he's in there. Another centre midfielder, you probably might not know, or you might know from a moment. His name's Riley McGree. He's a centre midfielder for Adelaide United, was at Bruges. He's only 20. The reason he comes in, he's probably one of the most skillful players I've ever played with. And I never thought he was unbelievable in terms of his talent he brought. But then after watching a game in the A-League and to be named, he got third place at the Puskas Awards for one of the goals he scored. If you have a look at it online, the scorpion kick, the ball's behind him and he scored. It's an unbelievable finish. And, we knew he had that flair, but whether he ever turned it into a game, he did. And, he's another skillful player. And my front three, so I'd have Mark Pugh, who was an unbelievable servant to Bournemouth. And what he did, he always had the famous chop and always he did the same chop every week that no one could ever understand or work it out and stop him. And I felt for someone to have that sort of ability to do the same thing nearly every week and not even be stopped was something special. And he was a great player and an all-round good mentor for me when I was at Bournemouth. Another one, the striker, Callum Wilson, scores loads of goals, great athlete, can run in behind, good finisher, and a bubbly character, funny guy, and so down to earth with, all the younger players. And always, whenever he played for the 23s or in friendlies with myself, it wasn't like it was a chore for him to come down and play. It was always, how could he help and how could he make everyone around him, feel, more confident in play in the way they did. And he was always going to be in there when I had to make this team. And another one, an up and coming striker. He's been on loan, a lot of loans, and always scored goals. His most recent loan was to Swansea, and it's Sam Surridge. I was in the youth team with Sam, and he scored so many goals. It's a weird one with Sam because he's about 6'2", 6'3", long, gangly, but he's quick. He can have headers. He loves a physical battle. From everyone, you speak to at Bournemouth, he's probably one of the dirtiest strikers to play against. And I think he's learnt that from his loans at, Yeovil, Oldham. He's probably learnt that, getting that dirtier side of the game into him. So that's my 11. And to be managed, probably, it was a hard one because as a manager, I could have chose, a couple of managers, but the one that chose for me was Carl Fletcher, who was at Leyton Orient. Obviously, didn't work out at Leyton Orient after such a short spell. But he come into the youth team, and he was the one that sort of saved my career in terms of when he come in. Because the previous youth team managers dropped me from the youth team and didn't have me with the youth team, and he come in and brought me straight back in the youth team and took me under. And it was such a good feeling to have a manager that believed so much in you. And that is why he's the manager for my team. So, yeah, there you go. I've played
decent team.
Yeah, it's all right. It could do all right in an average league.
I'm just gonna hop on Instagram because I've just hopped on Instagram and got a few questions. From there. You spoke about this earlier, but it came up in a few times. Did you feel pressured under? Obviously, have you said with Ashmore? Did you feel pressured under that?
I think the first couple of games, I felt like, it's always one of those things, will my performances ever be enough? Ever to, challenge what he did? And I thought, do you know what? At the end of the day, I spoke to my dad about it. I spoke to a lot of people about it. you just do as you do, and if that's good enough, it's good enough. The fans will let you know if you're doing well. The fans will let you know if you're not doing well. But you know, I just thought, what a guy in terms of to have the career he's had at this level is, you know, great. And for Boreham Wood to get him as well was a good bit of business for them. And it was unfortunate we had to be at the same club because both of us really wanted to play. But yeah, no, I did feel pressured in some games, probably for the first 2 or 3 because it was my first time at the level and you've got such an experienced keeper. Why change it so drastically? But yeah, after the first couple of games, it just felt natural to me to be starting and being in there.
I think it helped that you saved a few penalties and we got that first win and you got the first point under our belts. And obviously, no offence to Nathan, but Nathan didn't start that season well. So obviously, Nathan's a legend, but I think obviously you restarted really, really well. So I think that helped.
I think it was an interesting time that first, say, couple of months of the season because I've never faced that many penalties in my career in such a short space of time. And it'd be because it got to every week. We go to every week, and then we'd have another penalty. And I actually had to start asking before games to the goalkeeping coach and to the assistant. I said, "Can we have a look at their penalties?" Because I said we're nailed on, going to have one today. There was a bit, and some people would say it was luck from me guessing or doing that. But there was a lot of things from my point of view where I would study their players who took them and have a rough idea where they would go. And that is probably what helped me in the long run. It was always frustrating when you'd save a penalty in the game and we'd still get beat. It was very frustrating, but you know, that's just football at the end of the day.
So
as a goalkeeper, like I remember when I used to play as a goalkeeper, the players would look a certain way or they'd do a certain thing and you could be able to guess. As a professional, do they do that or is there just no way you just have to guess which way they're going? Or
I think as I learned, when I was younger, I used to think, if he's looking to the left, he's definitely nailed on going to the left. But I think as you get older, and I was lucky enough to train with a lot of good penalty takers. So I was lucky enough to work with Jermaine Defoe at Bournemouth, and he used to stay out and do penalties all the time. And what he used to say, he goes, players are good enough now to look right, shape their body right, and then still whip it left or even leave it down the middle. So I think a lot of it's down to you got to take the minute details of looking where their planting foot goes. If it's more open, they can go anywhere, but the power will be off it. If it's more closed, they're only going to go to a certain side. And I think you got to play percentages in your head. And then even the times of the game. So for example, I remember one specifically. You look at Aldershot, and I think that was the first one I saved. And in my head it was a big game for both of us. I think they were 1-0 up at the time or 2-1 up at 2-0 up at the time, whatever it was. And I thought he's going to be so pressured to get this in. He's not going to do anything outrageous because he wants to score so badly. So he's going to swing at his body and wrap it as hard as he can. And that's how I played it in my head because mentally, as a player, you don't want to do anything too outrageous trying to get that goal. So that's just, little things like that. Watching the planting foot and just knowing players and understanding the side of the game sort of thing.
Obviously, as I said, going on, you said you spoke to the goalkeeper coach. Do you do that yourself? Are you on the YouTube looking at highlights of?
It's funny. I'm the first guy after a game that night watching the National League highlights show. Probably the team we're playing next week, and I'm looking. Okay, these players do this. This player does that. Right. And I'm always been intrigued and like studying why people do that or who likes to go through 1v1 and try lift it. Now I work with Wes Thomas when he was at Bournemouth and now he's at Notts County. And when he went through 1v1 with me against Notts County in my first game, he tried to dink me and I knew he would because I knew that's how he would go to do those things. And it's just about, knowing players and studying the team. And I think a lot of players don't believe in it, but I think a lot of players should because, if you have a person that's taken 10 penalties and he's gone 9 to the right and missed 1 to the left, I think strongly that he'll probably stick to going to the right.
Okay. We've got another question here. What's your favourite beer?
My favourite beer?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm probably a man of a Stella or a Peroni, but he's probably expecting me to say Foster's or something like that. So it'd probably be Peroni or a Stella. I don't mind a couple of them.
Another one is just you've had a variety of haircuts at Fleet. You've had the top knot, we've had it down, we've also had it blonde as well. What talk us through that?
Oh well, to be honest, I remember. So I was growing my hair out, and as a kid, believe it or not, I shaved my head. I had a shaved head, and then it went to the sides of short back and sides, quite, had a military look. And I thought, you know what, I don't really want to have that anymore. And I started growing my hair out, and then I started having good performances with growing my hair out in the top knot and all that. And then what happened was, one day my headband broke, like how I would tie it in. So I had Grimesy, I said, can I borrow a headband? So then I started wearing the headband. I had an all right performance with the headband, so I stuck with that. And then Laurie came up to me one game, and it was at Wrexham at home, and he said, George, we only win when you're in a top knot. Go back to top knot. So I went in the top knot for Wrexham at home, and then we won. So then it was all like, I'm not sure what I should keep. But yeah, the blonde was just I think the blonde was just more of an impulse to go, how much abuse can I take at a game? And I wanted to see how much abuse I could take. And look, it's just a bit of fun. I don't really, I keep my hair how I keep it, and I like to see it as a point of, it's something that differentiates me from other goalkeepers. It's a different look. You're easily noticed. Oh, okay, that's the keeper there. He's the one with the long hair, or he's the one with the top knot. He's the top knot, long hair, blonde. And it works both ways. You could be known as, oh, he's the good goalkeeper like that, or you're easily pointed out as the worst goalkeeper with the worst trim.
Second to last one. Someone's just put Ashes. I'm assuming they're talking about cricket. They said Ashes.
No, look, at the end of the day, Australia are getting back to their way of being quite dominant. But I think what hurt Australia the most was losing our best players for incidents that you can't ever, say, oh yeah, they look, at the end of the day, they deserve to get what they did, the bans they deserve to. And if it wasn't, put it this way, if it wasn't Steve Smith or David Warner, they would never be playing. As you can see, Cameron Bancroft has never come back on the scene. So I think it's got a lot to do with the ability of the player. Without Steve Smith, Australia would be nowhere near the top 2, top 3 countries in the world. He is massive for Australia.
Yeah, obviously, when you first signed, Ben Stokes just basically saved the Ashes for us. So that was big. So final question, we'll end it on, what's your favourite memory at Fleet? Obviously, so far you haven't played too much, but what's your favourite game or favourite memory?
Oh. Do you know what? It's a tough one, because I'd have to say favourite memory. I've got about 3 in my head. I think the best one would be, personally, probably getting the first clean sheet at home to Barnet, because it come as such a shock to everyone.
Yeah, I didn't expect.
We won 3-0 at a team that were flying, and yet no one expected that in the slightest. And it was a big team, and I still had to make some saves in that game. It wasn't like one of those other games where you get a clean sheet and you didn't really do much. So that's one of the memories. Hartlepool again, having for everything that went on in that match to still get the result. It's just the point in the season, it was so massive and they were so high up in the table. But I'd probably say my most memorable moment would be Sutton away. And the reason I say Sutton away is because we won 3-2 in the 98th minute. But I remember taking a volley from about 3 yards out to the face, getting absolutely stone cold knocked out, and then seeing Tyler go in goal. which because he was always we always in the car on the way out we were driving. He was like, how hard could it be? You did this, you did that, and I watched him do it in goal. And look, he was okay. He wasn't anything spectacular, but look, he did. Someone had to go in and do it, and he made a couple of saves. But yeah, that's probably my most memorable with everything that went on. You know, the first time we decided to go with no goalkeeper on the bench, to then have to put a player in goal, to then get a massive win. It was just everything for the club at the time.
Obviously, I promise this is my last question.
Right.
What did you? That Hartlepool game was a bit crazy. Just talk through that one. Obviously, after it, during it, even on social media after it as well, was a bit crazy as well.
Yeah. So the Hartlepool game was an interesting one because obviously I've had the banter throughout the whole season with Jeff Stelling and all that sort of stuff, and I was all looking forward to playing it. And we knew it was going to be a hostile atmosphere from the pure fact of they get about 5,000-6,000 fans. They pack it out. They're flying. They're expecting a big result. And then we come with a game plan of shut it out and we will get something on the break or the counter or something like that. And we went with that and we stuck to it quite, specifically. And then it was an interesting moment in the game. Ayo's gone to come on and a fan behind the goal is racially abused, like yelling something out at him. And I've turned around and I've had a look at the fans and I've said, like, I pointed their sign that says Hartlepool says no to racism, and I've like sort of said, I'm pointing at the sign, and then they're battering me, calling me whatever. And then we got a penalty about 5 minutes after Ayo come on. So I've gone over to the ref and the gaffer and I've said, look, this is what's been said. So then Gozzi had to wait about 10, 13, 15 minutes to take this penalty. And I couldn't imagine the nerves going through his head. He's dispatched it, as I always have every confidence he will. And then it just escalated from there. Then the fans, as you can imagine, 1-0 down to, toward the bottom of the table. They've just gone. It just turned really bitter. And then it turned, Glash was out on the other side of the pitch. And then words were said racially to him. And then another 5-10 minutes of stoppage. So we're going, it's the 88th minute. We've still got about 15, 17 minutes out of time here. Like we're thinking we just need the win. And then after the game, we all thought it was done. And then it all spurred on the pitch. 2 or 3 fans run on the pitch, started fighting with our players. Their manager started fighting with our players. Their mascot started fighting with all of us. And it was such a hostile environment. And then, as I said, and as I've said to everyone, I said, at the end of the day, why would I make, as they are assuming, because they say they never said it, but I said, why would I make that up to go to my own team to make my own striker wait an extra 15 minutes for one of our most important, things. And it was just disgusting what we experienced, but it's in with the PFA and the FA's hands now, how they deal with it. But yeah, even walking to the bus after the game, it was still very hostile, but once we got on the bus, we couldn't care less. We were all loving it and enjoying our 25-hour journey home.
Yeah, what I've seen a lot of comments from there is they're saying, the ref and the linos didn't hear it or whatever. But you know that the refs and linos in this league aren't very good. So the fact they're going to hear from the crowd is unlikely anyway. Exactly.
And look, at the end of the day, the only reason I heard it to other people not hearing it is because, as you can imagine, if the ball's down the other end and he's coming on as a sub, I'm in my goal getting a drink. I'm quite close to the crowd anyway. I'm not saying it's right you can't yell that out, but what I'm trying to say is, just because, so if I didn't hear it, you're still saying it's right to say what you've said. And what I don't understand, if they've been so racist and the comments they've made, it's not like their whole team was white. This is what I'm struggling to get to grips with, and that's what I think Hartlepool should be a bit cautious in dealing with how they're dealing with it, because you've got black players in your team as well. So it's a serious matter, and I hope one day it should just be crushed and kicked out of the game. But the referees and Hartlepool, to be fair to them after the game, dealt with it as best as they could.
Yeah, well, it's only a few individuals, and I don't like the way their fan base has tried to make out that we're sort of liars and stuff, but that's a different story.
Exactly, and that's why I think we appreciated, like, we'll do anything to win, don't get me wrong, do anything to win on a football pitch. But when you're saying you're doing those things to sort of win a game of football...
It doesn't make any sense, as you say.
It doesn't make... Yeah, why would we time waste? At the time, it was 0-0. And then why would Glash do it even then to another 10 minutes to add another 17 minutes onto it?
Tweet after the game as well. It just makes no sense. I don't.
Exactly. And I think Glash and me, for tweeting how we did, we got a fair amount of abuse for it. But, it didn't bother us. We can sleep at night and we're happy about, how the situation was handled.
Yeah, I'm really happy with that, Jordan. Thanks. I think all Ebbsfleet fans will want, as you've said, we want you to stay the next season. Obviously, big thank you for your time. You've been on for quite a long time there.
It's all right, no worries.
Good luck with Australia. Hopefully, you go to the Olympics next year, and hopefully we'll see you in a Fleet shirt very soon.
Fingers crossed, and yeah, let's hope we can get something sorted in the next coming weeks for next season for Ebbsfleet.
I might try and join that competition to get a shirt.
No worries, we've got a few people in at the moment, so we'll see how that all goes.
All right, cheers, Jordan.
No worries, guys. Thank you very much.
Jordan.
Cheers, Jordan.
Bye.